Okay, so we're looking at an Excel sheet here. I'm just going to go through all the steps on how to set up what you're going to use in this assignment. So you don't actually have to do all the Excel work, so there should be a second document that has all the work I'm about to do shown for you and completed and all that. But I know some of you maybe want to learn Excel a little bit, and maybe you're just curious, so I'm going to walk through all the steps and how to do this in Excel. So what we have here is we have 50 applicants. There we go. 50 applicants over here, and we have a bunch of information about them. So their GPA, their STEM, in other words, science, technology, engineering, and math GPA. They did an essay that was scored on a 1 to 5 about their helpfulness, if you will. So a 1 is not very helpful, a 5 is very helpful. This is an essay about how much they value money and see money as a priority with graduation. So whether that's a priority or not. So 1 low priority, 5 high priority. We said, was your parent, one of your parents, a former attendee of this college, yes or no? And then we turned all the yeses into 1s and nos into 0s to make them numerical. Hey, did this applicant's parent give money? And then we also have their ACT and SAT scores. All right. So we want to use these to somehow create an entrance exam score. And so there's lots of ways you can do this. For example, in the state of Iowa, the Regents universities, the 3 main public universities, there actually is a score they use. And then that's one of the determining factors in terms of admissions. We're going to do a little bit different approach. But for example, you could say, well, let's use high school GPA and ACT, right? Well, the problem is GPA is on a 0 to 4 scale, ACT is on a 0 to 36 scale. And so ACT is going to have a lot more weight if I just use it as a value compared to GPA, because it's a larger number. So one thing you could do is standardize everything. So in other words, turn everything into a Z-score so they all are roughly on the same scale. Remember, Z-scores typically, most data fits between a -3 to 3. And so if we standardize all these, they're all going to exist on that -3 to 3 scale. So to do this, I need to find the means and standard deviations. So then I can then turn around and find Z-score. So down here, I'm going to find the means and the standard deviations. So how to do this is I'm going to create a formula. And again, you don't have to do all this. I'm just going to walk through these steps really fast, just because I know some people might want to learn Excel a little bit. And but again, if you don't want to learn Excel and you don't really care about it, you don't need to watch the rest of this video. But anyhow, here we go. So I'm going to type in a formula. So equals the average, parenthesis, and then I'll go ahead and highlight the data. So that's cell B4 all the way down to cell B53. Okay, then I'll hit enter. There it is. And then down here I'll do standard deviation. So that's standard deviation, deviation, and then it's the A one actually. Same idea, parenthesis, and then I could highlight, but if you remember, it was B4 colon to B53. And so you can see it highlighted all that data in that column, and enter. So there we go. I got the standard deviation and the mean for this column. Now I want to do the same thing for this column, this column, this column, this column, this column. And so actually what I can do is highlight these, grab this bottom right corner, and if I drag over, boom, it repeats this for every column. Now notice this one says hashtag or pound div. So there's an error there. Well, that's because you can't take the average of y's and n's, and so that's why there's an error. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I've done that. I want to find the z-scores for everything. So I'm going to copy this sheet. So I'm going to come down here, Control click on a Mac, or right click on that student data tab, and I'm going to move or copy. So I'm going to click move or copy, which I think is off my screen, so you can't see it, unfortunately. So let's see here. There we go. There we go. Move or copy. And I'm going to create a copy. And I don't want it before the sheet. Actually, I want to move it to the end. So I'm going to create a copy, make sure that's checked, move it to the end. And there you go. So it copied the sheet but made a new one. And then if I want, I can right click. I'm going to do Z scores. Okay. So this is the exact same as this sheet, but now it has all the data values. But now I'm actually going to do this. I'm actually going to highlight and get rid of these. Okay, I'm in the z-score page and I just wiped all those out. Now why? Because I want to calculate z-scores. So in this top cell, go equals, parenthesis, and then I'm going to go back to this sheet. I'm going to click on this cell, minus, scroll down, the mean. So your x value minus the mean, parenthesis, divided by the standard deviation. And now I'll hit enter. Boom, it just calculated the standard deviation using the data off of the student data sheet. So it's referencing that sheet and then that box, if you will. All right, now one little trick before I do my next step is I do not want this box to change. I want it to keep using that same mean and that same standard deviation. So before this B, I'm going to click a dollar or put a dollar sign in. Before that 54, I'm going to put a dollar sign. And the same thing over here. Put a dollar sign and a dollar sign. What that does is that tells Excel, hey, Excel, keep that same box every time if I copy this formula. So do not change that box. Okay. So now if I highlight, I can grab and scroll down or fill down, copy down, and boom, I fills it in and it calculated the mean and calculated this z-score. And every box, you notice as I'm going down, these two things are always the same because it's always the mean and always the standard deviation. But this is changing because it's grabbing the x value on this sheet and then it's using it to calculate it. Anyhow, so I need to wash, rinse, repeat, so I need to do the same thing here. So equals parenthesis that value minus the mean parenthesis divided by the standard deviation, right? And then again, I got to come in here. I'm going to put these dollar signs. Whoops, before the 5. There we go. Dollar signs, because again, I don't want the mean and the standard deviation. I want to change. I want to fix it. That's what that's doing. And now that I have that, again, I can copy and drag down. All right, so I'm just going to redo that for the all the rest of these columns, and so I'm going to do that and skip ahead. Okay, I got all that filled in. These are all the z-scores. However, I do need to fix something. So in the ACT and the SAT column, I don't have a score for everything. So it's actually treating the blanks as like zeros. and I don't want it to do that. So I need to fix that up. So I'm going to go in this top ACT box, and now it gets real fun. So right after that equal sign, I'm going to say if parentheses, I'm going to go back to the student data sheet, find that same box. If that equals quote, quote, comma, quote, quote, comma, and then there's all that stuff I just did. All right. So what this is doing is it's saying if that box is empty, so in other words, notice there's nothing between these quotes, then put this in that box. Well, if it's empty, then put nothing there. If there is something though, then it'll put this calculation in. So if I hit enter, there you go. There was a value there, so it put it in. And so again, I'm gonna fill down, drag that down. Bingo. So some of these boxes are empty because there was no ACT score. All right, I gotta do the same thing though on the SAT. So I'm gonna come up here, if parenthesis, go back over, if this box equals quote, quote, in other words, it's empty, then put an empty thing back in there, comma, otherwise do the calculation. And again, now that I have that, I'm going to fill that down. Bingo, there we go. All right, last but certainly not least is I'm going to, I want to, by default, we're a Midwestern school, so it's more common to have ACT scores. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say equals if parentheses, if this box is empty, then use nope, not that one, the one down below. Hard to find it there, but there it is. Use the SAT one. Otherwise, use that one. All right, good. And so now if I drag this down, bingo. So if this ACT box is empty, it then uses the SAT box. Otherwise, see how it's using the ACT box. I'm not sure if any of them have both. Ah, this one does have both. And you can see though it's using the ACT score because that's what most Midwestern schools use, is the ACT. So, because it's most common in the Midwest. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to copy this one more time and clean it up. So I'm going to click that tab, move or copy. We're going to move to the end, create a copy. All right, so I'll label this admissions admin score, maybe. All right, and then actually I don't need this column because it doesn't matter. And so we could, well, I know I don't need to delete it, never mind. But we'll say this is your admissions score. All right, and then now what I'm gonna do is up above, we're gonna add some weights. Okay, and right now I'm going to put them all as 0. And so now I'm going to create the formula like this. So I'm going to say equals, so that cell times, whoa, too many times, times this value plus this cell times this value plus this cell times this value plus this one times this value. I'm actually going to skip that one because this is not a value anyway. So this one times this value plus this one times this value plus this one times this value plus this one times... Oh, actually, no. I got a little overzealous there. We don't want these. I actually want to skip that and then use this one times that value, because I'm going to use this one, which is the one where I told Excel to pick one or the other. And right now my emissions score is 0, but that's because all my weights are 0. Now I do need to go back in here and clean this up because I wanted to keep using these same weight boxes every time. So I need to put $signs on that. B2, C2, D2, E2. There's a way to do this when you click, but I don't remember how to do it on a Mac. So I'm just going to go back in. There we go. And then I will copy those down. Okay. So now I can go through and change these boxes. And actually, why don't I just get rid of this one, and this one, because I'm not using them anyways. I can change these boxes and decide what I want to weigh more than everything. So in other words, I could put these all as 1s. Bingo. And now everything has the equal amount of weight. So this GPA, the essay, this essay, the alumni, the donations, and the ACT, SAT score are all going to have the exact same weight. In other words, each one of those components will contribute the exact same amount to the admissions score. And then there you go. And then I could look through and see, okay, who has the highest admissions score? And whoever that is who's going to get in. But I could change these priorities, right? I could say, I think your overall GPA should matter a lot. So maybe a weight of 5. STEM GPA, maybe I don't care. Maybe we're not a science, technology, math college, right? You know, we're kind of a liberal arts college, so we don't care as much. So maybe we don't even want to weight that. But maybe we really value our students being helpful, good citizens, right? So maybe we want to value that a lot. But we still value academics more. So notice this is a 5, this is a 3. Their essay about money, maybe we'll leave it as a 1. It matters, but not a lot. We don't really care if they're parents and alumni. And maybe we don't care if their parent gave money, right? And then over here, the entrance exam, we do want to weigh that maybe. And so maybe a 2. We want to have some weight on that, because it's sort of a measure of perhaps maybe academic success a little bit. But there you go. So maybe I weighted it this way. And then now I created all these scores. And so then what I could do is I could go through here and hunt down who have the top scores. So like right here, I can see here's a 10. That's pretty high. There's a 12, etc., etc. And in fact, I think we could probably do a sort, but I'm afraid to, because I'm afraid it might jumble some of this up. Well, let's give it a shot. So if I highlight these, I can come up here to data sort, and I want to sort it by column L. In other words, this last column. Oh. No, my list does not have headers. You notice it wasn't including this row. Okay, now sort by column L. Smallest to largest. Actually, I want to go largest to smallest. And I think that worked. So then who are my top 10? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that right? Nope, to here. So now those people are my top 10, and those are the students that get in. Okay. But of course I change these weights differently. It's gonna give me a different result. So maybe I think high school GPA is overinflated. Students take too easy of classes and all that, and so maybe I'll weigh that as a 1, and I'll go the flip side, and maybe I'll weigh that as a 5, right? Well, now that changes things, right? These people who got in under my old system wouldn't get in under this new system. And maybe, you know, let's be realistic. Donations help our college continue. And so maybe I'm going to put a 2 on that. And then now here, that really changes things, right? And so now these are no longer the top 10s. Let me undo that. And again, I could highlight and sort these and all that. So if you play around with these numbers here, that'll change the weights, which will change who gets admitted by their admissions scores. But the engine that's behind all this is z-scores. And so kind of a fun, interesting way to use z-scores, different than maybe what we've seen in class. So hope that was maybe interesting. Maybe you learned something about Excel. But anyhow, there you go.